Hello everybody, it's very nice to have you, and today we're building out our first project together. We are building a marketing copy generator. So what that means is you enter a topic inside an input field and then you click generate, and the AI we're gonna be working with will create a really nice marketing copy for whatever topic you entered. So there are some businesses that actually work like this. This is just a simple concept, obviously, something you could do in one tutorial, but you can really expand on this idea. You can work a lot on the styling, and then you'd actually have a pretty impressive portfolio project. What technologies are we gonna be using to build this? First off, NextJS, one of my all-time favorite JavaScript frameworks that also includes React. Then we're gonna be using Typescript, which I think is a very nice superset of JavaScript. It just allows you to really code better and faster. And for the styling, we're gonna be using Tailwind CSS, my all-time favorite CSS framework. It just allows you to move way faster, makes CSS way less of a hassle. So I love Tailwind. I use it in every project that I built. And arguably the coolest feature we're gonna be using is the AI we're communicating with, because it is one of the most powerful language models in the world, called GPT-3 by OpenAI. Don't be discouraged though, this is a beginner to intermediate tutorial, so working with the AI itself is not that hard. It's like an API. I'm gonna walk you through the whole process. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and at the end you will have a great project that you can really expand on, bring in your own ideas and make of it whatever you want. So enough of the intro, let's get started with the project. Okay, so let's get started with this whole thing, and the first thing we're gonna do is create the project on the desktop, and we also need to look at how to initialize a NextJS project with Typescript. So for that, let's go into the NextJS documentation, and we can just copy this command right here and open either a CMD or PowerShell inside of our project folder, paste the command, and because we do not want this to be initialized in a subfolder, we are going to type a dot after it, and that is pretty much telling the Next installer to just initialize the whole project in this directory right here. And it seems like my antivirus does not like what is happening, so I'm just going to disable it for a second. And then NextJS is going to install. So this might take like a minute or two, and you know, there's no real value in you seeing this whole process. So I'm just going to wait a second until this whole thing is over, and then I'll be right back. Actually, never mind. You know what? While this is loading, we can discuss what we're going to do in this video. So you already saw the final product, right? But I'm recording this before the final product's ready because, you know, I'm just live coding this whole thing. So let's draw a little sketch of what we essentially want. So we're going to have a home page right here. It's just going to be the NextJS index page, home page. Can make it a bit larger. And then on this home page, we would want two things. So first, there's going to be an input like this, with the title right here, and this input is gonna have a character limit. So let's just write something like that, so we know we still have to implement that. And so the user can type a maximum of like 100 or 50, or we're gonna define that later, characters inside of this field, and whatever they type in, they are gonna receive a marketing copy for after we implemented the API integration with the artificial intelligence we're going to use. And below this, there's just going to be a button that says like submit or whatever. And I'm well aware this looks hella ugly, but this is pretty much what the website is going to be. And then I'm not quite sure yet where we're going to show the output, because this is like the user input, this is the submit, and then maybe we will show a modal that has the AI answer, but we're gonna think about that when it actually comes to building the output. And yeah, that's pretty much the plan for the project. And I think, all right, by now the project is done. NextJS has initialized, so let's open this project in VS Code and get started. So because we're building this whole thing on the homepage, you know, this is not a like complicated project. We can just go to the NextJS index page. We don't need this whole thing. We can delete that. And also this one, we don't need that. We're gonna keep the head and just call it, you know, marketing copy project. And at this point you can just insert, if you're following along, whatever you want for this title. I'm just gonna call it this. And the first thing we're gonna do is install Tailwind NextJS. So let's see how that is done. We just need to run these two commands right here. So I'm just gonna paste it right there. And we also need this one, which is almost ready. Why is it giving us errors right here? Never mind, errors are gone. Okay. All right, and that's the Tailwind installation pretty much done. Now what we need to do is paste this inside the Tailwind config. And now Tailwind should be working. So let's try it out. Let's insert a P, the class name of textred 500 and type hello world. Let's see the output. And for this project, I'm gonna use npm. Normally for my production projects, I tend to use Yarn because it makes the dependency management just a bit easier. But don't worry about it, it's essentially the same thing. It doesn't really matter what you're choosing. And okay, so the Tailwind does not seem to be working. Oh, and that is because we forgot to paste the CSS, so it can't work. We still need to insert this right here. We don't need the rest of the CSS. And now, yeah, perfect. All right, now the Tailwind is working just fine. All right, so let's get started with the input and the submit button as the first step, then work on the AI API integration. And then finally, once we have that done, we're gonna figure out how to show the results that come through from the artificial intelligence. For now, let's go to the index page and build out the basic styles. So we're gonna remove the P, we don't need that anymore. Let's go with a div that has a maximum width of, I think it's 2080 pixels, right? Doesn't show me right now for whatever reason. And then inside that div, oh, actually, let's just try out whatever GitHub Copilot is suggesting right now. Maybe it's something good, maybe not. Oh, it's just suggesting the NextJS normal stuff. Yeah, we don't need that. Okay, so at the top, let's have you know, like a heading 2 that is large, like 1.5 rem. We'll have the font bold, and that heading will say marketing copy generator. Obviously, the styles can be improved a lot, but this, you know, this live coding session is not really about the styles, more as it is about, like, you know, working with Typescript and working with the AI. So you could definitely work on those styles a bit more. And I know why it didn't show us the width. It's because I made a typo right here. Yeah, it's 2080 pixels. So now that should actually work. Perfect. We also want this text to be in the center and have like a, we're gonna add a padding to the container of like 12. So it will be a bit more in the center. And now, I mean, this looks pretty bad, but let's work on the input field now. So below that, we're gonna have I'm just gonna comment it to make the code a bit more, you know, understandable. And let's call it input field for marketing copy. And that might actually suggest something to GitHub Copilot. So let's try out whatever the hell it suggests to us, which looks pretty good. The placeholder at least seems to make sense. Generate. Okay, and now it stopped suggesting some things. So let's see what it did. It looks okay, but we want the button to be under the input element, so we want the flex column. We don't want it to be that large, so let's add max width of like, you know, 1/3. I think that should be. Oh, that didn't even do anything. Because we need to use width 1/3, and that should work. Nope, that still doesn't work. How about... Oh, because we're applying it to the H2. Never mind. What happens when we apply it right here? That works. And also the margin left and right auto, because we want this to be in the center. And then the input field, we're actually going to change to text area, because we want, you know, this looks like a field where you would enter your name or something. We don't want that. We want it to be a bit, you know, like taller. So we're going to have a text area, remove that. And we're going to have like 3 rows. Let's try that out. Why does it look so weird? I'm not sure. Oh, because there's a height defined for this already. That's probably why. Yeah. All right, that was why. And we want, yeah, we don't want this padding. That looks really weird. Let's add a padding of 4. That looks better. And let's move the button down just a bit by adding a gap to the flex. Let's do like gap of 4, so that will separate the button a bit from the text area. And yep, that looks pretty good. That's pretty much what we want. I want to remove this thing right here. Let's see, HTML text area, hide the resize, that's what we want. Is there a Tailwind property for this? Maybe resize. Oh yeah, resize none. All right, and that removed that. Perfect. Very nice. Let's add a bit of padding. Like let's do a padding bottom of 2 to the heading, so that will separate the heading from the input field just a bit. That looks good. And yeah, we can pretty much leave it like that. So what we can do is actually add the character limit right now. Because it doesn't really matter if we add it right now or if we add it later. So we might as well do it right now. And for that, we need the text area to be actually, yeah, let's put the text area in a div. And I'll tell you in a second why we're doing that. This div needs to be relative, and we will be doing that. Oh, what happened now? Why is it looking so weird? Do we need the width full on this one? Nope. Why is it doing that? Width full. Oh, we probably need the width full on the text area as well, right? Yes, that was it. Okay, so that looks better. And the reason we added this div is because we want to position the character limit absolutely in the bottom right. It just makes everything way easier. So we're wrapping the text area in a div because we don't want the character limit to be in the text area, because as you can see right here, the text area is self-closing. So we'll be doing this inside a parent div. And let's comment what we're doing, which is gonna be absolute. Actually, let's not comment the style. Let's say character limit in bottom right of text area, which is very descriptive. And GitHub Copilot is already suggesting pretty good stuff here. So let's see how that looks. Nice, that is exactly what we wanted. However, let's not use 100 characters, but less. So how about we use 30 characters as the limit? And how do we go about actually seeing how many characters the user typed in? This is where a little bit of your prerequisite knowledge will come in, because for that, we're gonna use React state, let's say input, and that input can just be a string for now, like an empty string. And with this input, we're gonna have a controlled input. So that means the text area is gonna have the value that is set right here. And since this value is an empty string, you can't type anything in here right now. To change that, we're gonna add on, yep, that's exactly what we want. Thanks GitHub Copilot. It's an on change, and the on change gets triggered whenever you type something in here, right? So if I type a letter, well, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Input. Shouldn't that work? e.target.value. Wait, so if we had a regular input, that should work, right? Yeah, if we have a regular input, that works. But it doesn't work with the text area. No, it does. Oh, maybe it just didn't refresh. Yeah, that should have worked. So what we're doing is we're keeping the state, and whenever you type letter in here, like H, the onChange gets triggered and is setting the state to the letter. So let me show you. Let's log out the input so you can see it a bit better. And open the console right here. Let's clear it. And so whenever we type something on here, as you can see in the console, it refreshes the state in real time. So when we type this, hello, then these 5 letters will be saved in the state right here. And as you probably already know, every time the state gets updated, the UI also changes. So essentially we're keeping track of whatever the user types in here inside the input variable right here. And that is how we can determine how many characters the user has typed, because we can just use the input.length. And as you can see, hello, I want a marketing copy. As you can see, the characters in the bottom right are also changing with that. And that is exactly what we want, because it allows us to enforce the character limit when we are submitting the... Oh, and Grammarly is complaining. It allows us to enforce the character limit when we're going for the API request to the artificial intelligence. And that is gonna be what we're working on next. So I haven't worked with the NextJS regular API in quite a while, because I use a different tech stack to work on my production project. So this might take me a minute to figure out again, because working with TRPC, the software I normally use, is a bit easier in working with APIs because it also gives you type safety across the APIs, so it makes TypeScript way better. But we're gonna figure it out with regular Next.js. So the type of data we want in this API route is gonna be whatever the user has typed in this input right here. So let's call that input. Input is going to be a string. And we're going to receive that input as, actually we can leave this res. We can receive this input as a request body. And let's work on the function that submits this whole thing. So let's create a function for that, which is going to be async because we're making API requests. And all right, let's see what it's suggesting right here. Method post headers, body. That is exactly what we want. And sometimes, honestly, GitHub Copilot suggestions are really good. Sometimes they are horrible. It really depends on the mood of GitHub Copilot. I feel like sometimes it doesn't even suggest anything. But this is exactly what we want. So actually, let me make this larger for you so you can see better. So we're making a fetch request to this API route, which doesn't exist yet. So we're gonna have to rename the hello.ts to marketing-copy.ts. And we're making a post request. So that means we are submitting data to this API route. We expect application JSON data, and as the body, we are passing the input state value, so whatever the user typed in here, to the API route. So that means this input variable right here we get from the request.body is gonna be exactly what the user typed in right here. Okay. And then we're awaiting the response and logging the data. So let's just try this out. This should already work. We only need, so this generate button right now, it does nothing, right? Because there is no form. There is no standard action for this button. So it literally does nothing. Let's add a type button and on click. So what should happen if this button is clicked? We are going to submit. And actually we can just leave this out. So on click, this function will be run. And that should technically log John Doe as an answer in the console. So let's try it out. We know what we're expecting, so we know if it works or not. And that is exactly what it does. It passes an object and the name property is John Doe. So that's very nice. And that is going to be the basis for the whole project. So we can also return whatever the user has typed. So let's see if that works, right? So right now, hello, I want to marketing copy is getting passed to the API, which is server-side code that has been executed. And this server is pretty much doing nothing with the data, but just returning it back to the client. And so right now what it should write to the console is exactly what we typed in here. Let's try it out. And that is exactly what it does. It pretty much just gives back the user input, so exactly what we expected. Nice. So that means we can actually do something with the input in the API. And for that, we will need to go to openai.com, which is the project we're going to use for the artificial intelligence. And I might need to blur some data here, but I'm going to walk you exactly through the steps I'm going to take, so you can do the same. So the first step with OpenAI is logging in with your account. And if you've never logged in before, then it might ask you to, actually it will probably ask you to verify your phone number, because you get granted credit. So as you can see right here in my experimentation for the startup we're currently building, which is wordful.ai, which also has to do a lot with AI, obviously. I have experimented a bit how to get really good results for the product, and that is why I've used a little bit of the grant already. But you should still have $18 if you've never worked with OpenAI before. And that is really cool. So it allows you to do a lot of API calls without needing to pay anything in the start. As you can see, it expires after like 3 or 4 months, but that is plenty of time for this project to, get you started into the world of AI. Okay, and as I said, I might need to blur some information here, but essentially what you would want to do is go to the personal and then view API keys. And this is where you find your API key, which you need to make requests to the OpenAI API later. So we're going to copy that. And for security reasons, we will paste this API key inside a .env. And let's call it OpenAI API key. And yeah, I'm gonna need to blur this definitely. But this is where you just paste your API key, like copy paste without any spaces, no quotes, nothing, just open API key equals, and then whatever you got from this website right here. All right, great. If you've got that done, then we can take a look at the documentation on how to use the API, because that's what we're going to use to get the API marketing copy. Let's see where it's talking about how to make requests. It should be right here. Completions. There is a JavaScript SDK for this whole thing. OpenAI npm. Let's search for that. Just 1 or 2 days ago, I found the command we need to do inside of JS right here. I'm not sure where it went, but it says what we need to do right here. So this is the npm package we need to use for the communication with OpenAI. So let's install that. And I'm gonna close the env file just so I don't have to blur anything. And let's install this npm package, which is called OpenAI, and that will allow us to communicate with the AI. So we can copy this configuration, and we just need to copy this. And I'm gonna do this inside of, well, normally my layout's a bit different, but right now we can put it in separate folder called utils. We're gonna have that at the top level. Where did it go? There it is. And we're gonna have a file called constants.ts, which is where we are just gonna store every constant that we have. And we're gonna export the configuration so we can use it right here in the back end. So according to the npm package, what we need to do is this right here. Let's have that new OpenAI API, and the configuration we can just import from the constants that we have defined. Why is this not working? OpenAI API. That's not working. Import. Yeah, that should do it. I don't know why it didn't suggest the right import there. And that is pretty much all we need to do to communicate with the AI. So that is very easy. You just need your API key, you need this npm package, and then we can already work on creating our first completion. So how are we gonna do that? We have whatever the user wanted right here. So create a marketing copy for whatever. And let's try out OpenAI.create completion. As you can see, Typescript already suggests very good things. And this library is also type safe. So you can see the input types. They have actually defined that. So that prevents you from having to just test out what the data type looks like. I'm going to show you later. It's very easy. Let's just copy an example prompt from the OpenAI documentation. Oh yeah, they had it right here. Look, so I must have missed that. Completions. Let's copy the prompt from right here and paste it right here. All right, so prompt is we're gonna figure the prompt out in a bit. And let me take you to the OpenAI playground, and this is what's gonna happen. So right here, we can actually directly interact with the API. So if we say like the moon revolves around, and then it's probably gonna say the Earth, right? Well, yeah, it kind of did. So as you can see right here, we can interact with the API, and this is the place to go if you want to figure out how to design the prompts for the result that you want to receive. So if we just passed the input, so whatever the user typed, where did we, oh, did I close it? So whatever the user typed right here, hello, I want a marketing copy. If we just put the input right here as the prompt property, then that would mean we just pretty much paste it right here. And what it will do by default is try to complete the text and not really generate the marketing copy, you know? So right here you can see it said, you know, for new product and introducing the newest addition to our product. So it kind of got that we want the marketing copy, but it didn't really do it that well, you know? So what we should rather do is act like we want something from the API so the answer gets very clear. So let me show you an example. If we expect that user types in here, like I want the marketing copy for, so the user types in just the topic, right? So let's do cappuccino press. I don't know if that's a thing, but is that a thing? Yeah, that seems to be a thing. So the user just enters the topic. So let's actually rephrase the wording a little bit. Enter your topic here. So we just want them to enter the topic, like a cappuccino press, and then we're gonna send that over to OpenAI. But let's say you are a marketing expert and a customer approaches you to write a short marketing copy for him or her. This is the topic they would like a marketing copy on. And this is where the input from the user is gonna go, right? So cappuccino press. And we're not gonna paste it right here. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. But input here. We can just do it like this. So later in the code, we'll have an easier time. And then we're gonna tell the API, this is the short marketing copy you came up with. What is short and very interesting marketing copy. Okay, so let's actually put the input right here. And why is Grammarly complaining on the topic of, and let's put that in quotes so it's a bit more clear what the user wants. And let us see what the hell the AI will come up with. Cappuccino Press is a new and innovative way to make cappuccino at home. With Cappuccino Press, you can now enjoy delicious cappuccino without having to go to a coffee shop. Okay, that's pretty good. It's not perfect, but I'm sure you can work a bit on the prompt design. I think I will use it for now. Let's try it out with one different example. Like, you want a marketing copy on the topic of, you know, what would be a good topic? On why drinking coffee? Why drinking coffee is good. So we want to convince people now that drinking coffee is very good for you. Actually, let's increase the temperature a bit. The temperature is pretty much what determines the originality of the output that the AI gives you. So when you have a very low temperature, then the AI will become very repetitive and it will always say the same thing, and it will pretty much exactly stay on the topic you wanted it to stay on. So increasing the temperature makes sense when you want very like a lot of variety in the output that you get, and you want very original output. And I think for marketing copy, we can increase the temperature a little bit, maybe to like 0.85. We can decrease the output of the generation, and let's see what it comes up with. Okay, I mean, it kind of gets the idea. So it generates a marketing copy for us, and you could pretty much insert anything here, just like you could in the project. So actually, let's just use this. Let's replace this so we have it a bit easier. And what you can do from the playground, actually, exciting marketing copy. All right. For them. And the subject of. Okay, that's good. And let's view the code right here. And that's very cool. We can pretty much just copy and paste this from the playground, so we can experiment whatever we want right here. Oh, and we also need Node.js. And then just copy the code whenever we're done. When we came up with a good prompt for the AI, let's insert that prompt right here. And we also want to wrap this in JavaScript template strings, so we can dynamically put the input right here. Okay, and that is like 80% of the work done. So you are a marketing expert and a customer approaches you to write a short and exciting marketing copy for them. This is the topic they would like a marketing copy for. And then we have the topic. That is going to be whatever the user inputs. So, all right. Let's try that out. So, const response is going to be this one, and we need to await that, which is going to be async function. So we will await the API call to the artificial intelligence. And then whenever we have that, the suggestion of the AI is going to be exactly that. Actually, yeah, it's going to be that, but we need to do question marks. So why is it? There we go. Because sometimes, like when there's an error or something, I think then the thing will be undefined. But if that is undefined, which it can be, we're gonna, if suggestion is undefined, we do not want to return an undefined input. That would make it very hard for the client-side handling of whatever we get back. So we actually want to throw an error. In the case of the tool I normally work with, in this case, it suggests to return this, but I'm gonna throw a new error, and that error is gonna be like no suggestion found. We can put it right here. Yep. All right, and that means we are always gonna return a string result. We're always gonna return a string from the suggestion. Okay. And that means that this data right here is going to be, actually let's call it suggestion, which is going to be a string as we defined earlier. And let's just log it out. Let's see what the artificial intelligence comes up with. So that should work now. Let's open the console and see. So random topics to get marketing copy for. I don't like the cappuccino press. Yeah, let's what would be a good idea? Newsletter. Let's create a marketing copy for my new newsletter. Obviously, the AI has no idea what my new newsletter is, but it will probably try to come up with a marketing copy for newsletter. All right, so what should happen now is we type that in, it will get sent to the API route, it will be received, it will prompt the artificial intelligence with the prompt we have created before, like generate a marketing copy for us. We are receiving that response, and the text of that response is going to be the suggestion from the AI. I can actually show you what the response looks like. So you have a bunch of stuff, right? You have data, headers, request status, and status text. What interests us is the data, so that is pretty much the answer. And in here you have like which model you used, the ID. I'm not too sure what the created ones is, but the choices is the most important one. And that is gonna be an array of choices, but it pretty much only ever returns one choice. So we just want the first one in the array. And from that we want the text. So if it's undefined, it will throw an error. And if everything goes well, then that result will be returned back to the front end and be stored in this variable right here, which we're going to log out to the console. So let's try it out if we did everything correct, and it should return the response from the artificial intelligence right here in the console. Let's try it. And it did. Welcome to my newsletter. In each issue, you'll find exciting articles and tips on a variety of topics, including how to improve your business, how to better market your products, and it didn't finish it because we have limited the amount of tokens it is able to create, right? So we told him the artificial intelligence, at most your response should be like about 40 words long, and sometimes it reaches the end, but it hasn't finished the sentence yet, so that's why it looks a bit weird. So let's try like you write a very short and exciting marketing copy, so you know it doesn't get interrupted. Okay, and we want to use that somehow and put it somewhere. Like we can try putting it down here. Like this is what we generated for you. And we also still need to implement the character limit. So let's do that first. Let's do the submit, and let's use another state, and we'll call that error. And the error is gonna be false for now. Whenever we try to submit, then check if character limit is exceeded. So whenever we click this button, then the first thing we want to check is, has the user typed more than we allowed? And if the input.length is greater than what we have defined below, we're gonna set the error to true. Yes, all right. And then we can put the error message above the text area. So that would be right here. Error message, error. That looks good. Character limit exceeded. Great. All right. So that is going to be absolutely positioned at the top left. So that's pretty much what we want. But actually, no, never mind. Wait, I'm going to take this and replace it with a paragraph. Paste that in there, and then text should be small and the text should be red. So let's just change this to true to see how that looks. Perfect, that's exactly what we want. I want a bit more padding, and that looks good. All right, so character limit exceeded. Please enter less text or whatever, you know. Okay, let's change this back to error. And whenever we try to submit, then we need to return actually, because if we don't return right here, the rest of the function is still going to be run. We don't want that. And right now, I would like a long marketing copy. So that shouldn't work. Perfect, character limit exceeded, please enter less text. It won't let us submit. And what would be a nice feature is whenever we remove the characters, then, you know, the error gets removed. And one way we can do that is with a use effect. So whenever the input changes, then we'll check if the input.length is smaller than 30. And if it is, we are gonna set the error to false. So I would like a long marketing copy that won't let us submit, but when we delete the text, then the error message is gone, and it's just, you know, a bit better for the user experience. Okay, what we could also do is make this red, which would also be nice. So let's do that. So whenever we have more than 30 characters entered into the input, then both the text is going to be red. And we can do that by having a template string as the class name. And whenever input.length is greater than 30, we're going to have text red 500 and else nothing. So let's see if that works. Marketing copy. That does not work. Why doesn't that work? Input.length. Text red. Wait, why isn't that working? Whenever the input length is greater than 30. Why isn't that working? That should be working. Oh, because it's a conflict with the text gray. So whenever the input is longer than 30, which like this right here is a ternary operator, whenever this is true, the first thing gets rendered, and when it's not true, the second thing gets rendered, so the text will be gray. And now it works, right? So whenever we have entered more than 30 characters, it gets red, and whenever we are below it, the error goes away and the red color also goes away. So that's just a small user interface improvement. Okay, so the final step in this project would be to actually show whatever the AI has generated. And I think we're gonna show it right here below, which would make sense. So let's show it below the generate button. And it's obviously totally up to you wherever you want to show that. We are gonna show it right here. Output field for marketing copy. Dude, sometimes GitHub Copilot is so useful. A div with full. We can show it in a text area, that's good. We could also just show it in a regular paragraph, I guess. Yeah, no, we're not gonna use the text area. We're gonna show it in a paragraph. And then close the div GitHub Copilot proposed. And a paragraph. No, we're not gonna have lorem ipsum. We're gonna show the suggestion that we don't have yet. We need to save this in a state. Suggestion, which is gonna be an empty string for now. And then whenever we receive the suggestion from the artificial intelligence, we also need to export that from this function, essentially to be able to show it in the UI. Because if we just have it in the function, then our functional component won't have access to it. So we need to save it in the state. And then we can show it right here whenever it's there. And let's just enter a bit of like lorem ipsum for now to see how that looks. Looks like that. Okay, it doesn't look terrible, but I would like the text to be smaller, more gray. We can have a border radius on this one, on the parent. BG gray 100, and yeah, and like padding of 4. All right, that looks a bit better. Your marketing copy. And we can have that as a, like, above here, I guess, as a heading 4, your marketing copy. And that's gonna be text large and font. Let's try semi-bold. And we want the whole thing to be in a div so we can add padding more easily. And we're gonna have actually our margin top of 12, so a bit more spacing. Oh, that's too much. Let's do 8. And that is looking good. We want a bit of padding on the heading. All right, and we only want to show this div if there is a suggestion. So whenever this condition is true, then this div also gets rendered. And so that should hide it right now because there is no suggestion. But whenever we enter a topic here, so what do we want the marketing copy on? We want the marketing copy on a window cleaner. Let's try what that generates us. Oh, and we could also improve the generation. Oh, never mind. We still have the lorem ipsum, oops, here. We obviously want to show the suggestion right there. And then let's also have a state for use state loading, which is going to be false by default. We're going to have the set loading state, set loading true, perfect. We're going to wrap this whole thing, the API call, in a try catch. And in case of the error, you could, at this point, you could implement some custom error handling. I'm just going to log it to the console. And then finally, whether it errors or not, we want the loading state to be false. All right, and this suggestion we're only going to have in this try block. Same with this one. Nice. All right, and let's add loading state right here. So whenever it is, yeah, we can just do it like this. And we could also have a little spinner. So yeah, let's actually implement a little spinner. So what we can do for that is add a div. Div is going to be, class name of flex, and add a little gap. And then in this div, we want a loading text, but we also want a spinner. So how do we get a spinner? npm react spinners. There's a lot of ways to do this. You could have an SVG and just apply an animation to that, like a spinner animation. But there are also a lot of npm packages you can have. For example, this one. We can just do a clip loader, I guess. That doesn't look too bad. Obviously, if this was a real production project, you would want something more sophisticated. But for this one, I think this is totally fine. So let's add it to our project. And then we can import the, what was it called? Actually, yeah, let's add a moon loader. I think it looks a bit better. And we want that to be right here. Oops. Moon loader. And let's import, moon loader from React spinners. Okay, and let's just change loading to default to true for now to see how that looks. Okay, that thing is way too big. So we can actually try applying a height of like 12 to the button. And the moon loader does not seem to care. with actually height, size. How do we 100? Oh, that is way too large. Let's do like 10. It's too small. It's 25. Let's do like 15, and then color is gonna be white. All right, it's not perfect, but it's definitely loading indicators, so that works. And we're gonna have justify center, so all the stuff is gonna be in the center. And we also have item center, so the loader and the text will be on one level. Have a bit more of a gap, like 4. And I do want the loader to be a bit larger, like this. No, let's do 20. That seems to work fine. Okay, and whenever that is not true, it will look like this. Okay, and that means we are pretty much done with this project. So let's try it out. We want a marketing copy on a... Well, actually, let's reload the page just in case. Window cleaner. And let's see what output that gives us. So let's click generate. It's connecting to the API and all right, objects are not valid as a React child. We get an error. So why could that be? Suggestion is not, oh, okay. Because, so this error occurs because we're passing an object from the API route, which has a property of result. So we inferred the type wrong. So the suggestion is not a string, but it is an object that has a result that is a string. And so we can destructure the result from suggestion. And then we're going to set suggestion to result. And that should fix the error. Let's reload the page, try that again. We want a marketing copy of a window cleaner. Very important that we have a window cleaner, and then let's click generate and see what happens. Okay, so it generated our marketing copy. Looking for a streak-free shine on your windows. Bring in the professionals at your local window cleaning company, which is pretty cool. Let's try one for Sony headphones. Definitely not sponsored, but let's try it and see what happens. Sony headphones are the perfect way to enjoy your music. They provide superior sound quality and comfort, so you can keep listening to your favorite tunes all day long. Pretty cool. All right, I'm quite happy with that, and I think as a first AI project, that is pretty impressive. You know, like if you're starting out with Next.js, this is like a very cool project to work on, and I think it's also a great introduction to working with artificial intelligence. So you don't really need to be intimidated by, you know, AI that's so special. No, I mean, it's really just an API like any other API that you know, just communicate with. All right, and so the last step in getting this project online would be to go to Vercel, which is where we're gonna deploy this. I'm gonna log in with GitHub, and I might need to censor something here, I'm not sure. Let me just log in. I don't want to save that. And here you can see all the projects I have, and we want a new project. And oh, before we need to do that, we go to GitHub to actually open a repo for this project. Let's do that. So let's create a new repository. We're gonna call it AI project tutorial. It can be public, and we're gonna create it. All right, let's add the origin and add everything. Let's call the commit initial commit. Push it up to the Git repo. Oh, git push origin main. So we're pushing it upstream. Oops. What am I doing? No. We're pushing upstream from the main branch. That's going to push it up to the Git repos, so it should be in here, right? It is. Nice. All right, so you can see Typescript and just the standard configuration. And now we can deploy this thing. So here you can see all my current projects in Vercel. We're going to use Vercel to deploy this, so you can make an account at vercel.com if you haven't already made one. And the thing about Vercel is it makes it very easy for you to just import projects from like GitHub. So we can just click deploy. And that is pretty much all we need to do. So once this has deployed, remember to also include the environment variable of the API key you've gotten from OpenAI. Because otherwise, you know, there will be 400 HTTP error invalid request because you're not authorized to make an API request without the API key. Also, if you get any error during this deploying stage, that is probably because you have some errors in your code. And to check if there are any errors, you can run your lint, and that will go through every file and, you know, just check. I'm going to close that and check if there's any building errors. You can also run the npm run build, which is going to build out the whole project once. And if there are no errors, then that means your project is ready to deploy. And that is what happened. So we just successfully deployed this. We still need to add the environment variable. So let's do that in settings, environment variables, and right here, I'm gonna blur this out again. You need to copy the exact name of your environment variable, and then as the value, you will copy the same thing from your .env, no quotes, no nothing, just paste it in here, click add, and that successfully added the environment variable right here. So we can go to project and actually check this whole thing out. This is hosted at aiprojecttutorial.vercel.app because this has no security measures in place like authentication or rate limitation. I will take it down after the video so it doesn't, you know, get abused. But right now it should work online. The only thing we need to do is redeploy once because we changed an environment variable, and that means you need to redeploy the project. And once that is done, we can actually try out the project in the browser. Okay, so it has deployed again. Let's enter it again. Click generate. It's loading for a long time, so that's good. And now it finally worked, it generated our marketing copy. So let's try it another example. Actually, what did it generate for this one? Looking for a lawnmower that will make your life easier? Look no further than the Lawn 3000. This powerful machine is perfect for large lawns and it's easy to use. All right, that's pretty good. Let's try one for, what could we try a marketing copy for? Dyson Air Fan. Let's try a marketing copy for that. The Dyson Air Fan is a powerful and efficient way to cool your home. It uses advanced technology to circulate air quickly and evenly, providing a cool and comfortable relief from the heat. That's pretty cool. Obviously, I'm gonna leave the styling up to you. I think there's a lot to improve here. And if you actually want to make a software based off of this idea, then obviously you're totally free to do that. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found this project useful.